Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb Initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week I'll be talking about following the season theme of covering a list of genres in anime. Today I'll be talking about Maken-Ki to introduce the Ecchi genre. And before I even start, disclaimers, spoiler alert, I'll be talking about some of the story of the anime. I'll be talking only about the first season, and second of all, for all intents and purposes, I'll be talking about this anime in detail and the ecchi genre, as it is, let's say, a touchy kind of subject, because it's kind of hard to actually recommend something and everything related to that. I'm doing this review in order to not only have some, let's say, to market as a reference, but also because for the next few weeks I want to talk about time in anime, the mid 2010s, that we had a whole lot of, let's say, a whole lot of H anime coming out, and in many ways a whole lot of similar written anime. And for that matter, I kind of have to do this to introduce the subject, because a whole lot of people may not have ever maybe watched the animes I will talk about later, talk about the next episodes. But also, I don't know, I just want to talk about this thing. I don't actually have much to explain here. That being said, let's start. So, talking about Maken-Ki stats. So Maken-Ki is originally manga written by Hiromitsu Takeda, published in Monthly Dragon Age. It has 24 volumes, 120 something chapters, outside from the extras. And the original run was from April 2007 to March 2020. This is mostly from what I remember, because they had some hiatuses at some points, and also because being a monthly publication, the rate of publication was fairly sparse. That being said, the anime was, the first season ran from October 2011 to December 2011. It has 12 episodes plus the OVA. It was done by AIC Spirits, one of the subsidiaries from the AIC Incorporated group, who one of the subsidiaries also made Data Live for the first season, and some other major animes nowadays. Nowadays, they, from what I could find, they are mostly focused on games and some other stuff that's not actually related to anime, serializing anime weekly. So yeah, that's basically it. And now, just a quick side note, and I have to do this right now because I want to talk a bit about the author, Hiromitsu Takeda. I chose Maken-Ki to be the introduction of the ecchi genre, and I had a lot of options, some of which I want to talk about yet, but not now. I don't think they are actually good introductions. They are more, let's say, advanced cases. But also, I really wanted to talk about this one because it has, let's say, the pedigree of actual ecchi anime and manga, because yeah, boy, Hiromitsu Takeda is nowadays known by not only Maken-Ki, because, and this is the thing, right? Maken-Ki is the one hit wonder for him. I say this because it's the only manga that he could actually get serialization on a major magazine. as Dragon Age, because Hiromitsu Takeda, if you guys don't know, he works a lot in doujinshi and basically hentai and hentai stuff, more or less. You can find him on Twitter. I may or may not leave it in the description for this episode, but simple to say, the guy knows his stuff when it comes to lewdness. And the thing, and this is really funny to me because you can actually see the things he's doing in his Twitter, and I mean, nowadays he's working on a Japanese RPG. You can imagine what this is. And from all his works in, let's say, the Komi Cat only sold manga, he has, let's say, a fairly defined personality. And not only personality, but his style is fairly unique, although you could say it has some similarities to other artists. All his works are really unique. They really come out as his, much like Studio Trigger's anime. You can clearly identify as Studio Trigger. This is the best example I can give. And this is the thing, right? So Hiromitsu Takeda once had this one manga that he did, that is Maken-Ki, that was actually serialized, and one time he had this one manga that had two adaptations, because the first season of Maken-Ki was in 2011, and the second one was from January 2014 to March 2014 with 10 episodes. There's episodes in the first one, and I don't actually know how did they get this thing adapted really, because it's not that the manga is really lewd at the beginning, but it's still pretty out there. I mean, compared to things that we have nowadays, it's kind of, I would not say weak, but it is certainly softer than some other stuff that eventually got adapted into normal channels. But the thing is, the guy stuck to it till the end, serialized 120 chapters of a story that he mostly, let's say, his concepts are good, but the implementation, mainly in the anime, are not really that well done. I'll talk more about that when we get there, but easy to say, this one is the best example I could give for the ecchi genre, as I have been repeating myself. So with the stats given, let's start. So what is Maken-Ki about? So Maken-Ki starts out, it's a really, and this I can clearly say, this is a more of a shorter review, because this anime doesn't actually have that much to talk about, mainly because I'm talking about the first season, but also because the anime itself, both seasons don't actually cover much of the story that the manga, and I read the whole manga a few years back. I didn't actually reread for this episode, but eventually I want to actually review that. Anyways, that's not the point. The thing is, the first two seasons have so much setup that nothing happens really. And the thing is, right, so the story starts as our main protagonist, Oyama Takeru, gets enrolled in Tenbi Academy. Tenbi Academy, as of the year that Takeru is enrolling, has become a co-ed school, so it was girls only for some time, and now they are accepting boys. And Takeru already has his childhood friend, Amaya Haruko, who's a second year, so he's a first year in high school, and Haruko is a second year. And we already get, from the very beginning, the childhood friend flags, and that she is clearly into him, and she's a tsundere. One of those try to be the straight man kind of grow up. I remember the first time I watched this, and now again after rewatching it, she reminds me a lot of Huki from Infinite Stratos. They are from the same, let's say, the same time frame, so I would not doubt there is some inspiration between the two. But anyways, the thing is, right, so Takeru has already a childhood friend, and from his first episode, and the first episode already presents all the characters that we actually need to know about. So all the members of Maken-Ki. Maken-Ki, we get explained later that Maken-Ki is the, let's say, the security committee of the school. Because why does a school need a security committee? Because for whatever reason, in this school that, mind you, is located inside a independent region of Japan, they have powers, and not only powers, but they engage in duels to decide things. So much like a lot of, let's say, game related shonen, more or less, they engage in fights between the students to decide dumb stuff, be it cleaning duty, some kind of bet, some kind of whatever. And for the fights to be fair, they need the security committee. And eventually Takeru already gets into it. The first episode, really, they kind of present this already, but I say that, but it takes more or less like 4 episodes to do it. In the first episode also, we get presented to Himegami Kodama, who at the start, and it really becomes confusing because the story doesn't actually get to that point where we get the explanation of why she likes Takeru, but she starts hating Takeru because for some reason he has and they call the special energy, they use their weapons and they call it element. Element is the translation. I don't actually remember the word in Japanese, but whatever. The thing is, Himegami Kodama at this point, she doesn't like Takeru because for some reason he vibes as an enemy for her, and we don't actually know why. We don't actually know why she has enemies and whatever, but easy to say, eventually she starts liking the guy, and if you read the manga you get the whole explanation. But I'll talk about this later. Let me finish this section. And then we also get introduced to the third main girl, that is Kushia Inaho, who is also a, let's say, a childhood friend from Takeru, but she starts off not only protecting him from a fatal blow, but also by saying that declaring that she is his fiancé, and he doesn't actually remember of why. She says that doesn't actually remember her, give or take. So basically, this whole thing is a mess. The whole story at the beginning is a whole mess. It doesn't actually get much better from this point. That being said, what happens laying down the story is that eventually we get the normal shonen arc where Takeru has this urge to defend the girls from fighting because he had a traumatic experience as a kid, that he could not defend his mother, and because of that his mother died and whatever. And he goes through this whole thing where he's powerless, and then when they actually give him power, he tries to defend everybody, and the story goes from there. And basically that's the whole story, really. Also, I need to actually talk about it. One of the let's say the main partner in crime for Takeru, because Takeru at this point has only studied in all boys school. So when he goes to a co-ed school, he's planning on doing the pervert stuff. So you can guess the whole thing. So spying on girls in the bath and whatever, the whole pervert trope, right? And he has his partner in crime, that is Kengo Usui. Kengo Usui in the whole anime, the whole 2 seasons of the anime, not only the first season, but I clearly remember the second season, he doesn't actually have any development at the beginning of the story. Later on, he has a whole lot of development dumped into him from the get-go in the manga for basically to save the story. He eventually, in the manga, he ends up saving the story, but that's not the point here. The thing is, for what's worth, Usui is my favorite character from the series, mainly because of the manga, but he is the source of most of the fan service, and this is a thing, right? So I talked about the story, but I didn't yet touch on why this is part of the ecchi genre. So let's start with the concept of fan service. Fan service, when we talk about in manga and anime, it's the whole thing basically boils down to cater to the audience, to show the audience something they want to see. In the manga and anime hobby, it has basically boiled down from years and years of people repeating it in a whole lot of stuff, that fanservice implies that some kind of lewdness happens on screen. So they will just drop like boobies and whatever in the middle of an episode, in the middle of a fight and whatever, just for the sake of it, just to add shock value, to cater to the audience, as I already said, because of the stereotype of everyone who watches anime is basically a horny teenager and whatever. The thing is, I can kind of see that in many cases. Some of the anime that nowadays it happens a lot, but maybe it has become a bit more subtle. In many ways, in many series, some series add this fan service, this penny shots, press and whatever, in the middle of whatever they're doing, just because sometimes things that do not appear in the source material. Case in point, most of the penny shots and whatever that happen in High School of the Dead, which the original manga doesn't actually have that much, but the anime has a lot. And so basically they added this fan service, these ecchi parts, just to cater to the audience for some reason, just to add the shock value, to add to the tag, let's say. And Maken-Ki, I can clearly say, does not have fan service. Why do I say that? Because the story is thin, like I just said. When you read the manga, the source material is the way they portrayed it. The anime actually is really, really faithful to the source material, because the source material is done like that. It does not add this ecchi for fan service. It is ecchi. One of the main selling points of Maken-Ki is actually having that much lewdness inside of it. So much so, and coming back to what I was talking about Usui, so much so that at the end of the volume, generally mangaka will do some kind of omake, some kind of yonkoma. Yonkoma is the 4-panel kind of little strip of comedy they generally do, and so on and so forth. Towards the, let's say more or less the ending of the story, when I like to imagine that Hiromitsu Takeda was having some kind of trouble because he wanted to end the story, but he had to stretch it for some of the volumes. So some of the extras that he added in the manga are like Usui dreams, and they are, oh my god, they are so. And this comes back to the fact that Hiromitsu Takeda works in the, let's say, Comic Cat only kind of manga, and the basis of it basically is Maken-Ki. I think he has done Comic Cat stuff before he serialized Maken-Ki, but what I'm trying to say here is Maken-Ki is an ecchi anime from the get-go. It is not a shonen anime with a lot of fan service. It's an ecchi anime true and true, and that's why it basically fits in the genre, and why I think it's a good introduction. The anime comes from a source that has a lot of lewdness, and the guy who writes it is an expert on it, and that's more or less it for let's say general review. As for my opinion, and I just want to say, right, both the ending and the opening not special, really, not something to worry to write home about. The animation is pretty, I would say, mediocre, but from my experience, people do not know the strict meaning of mediocre. When I say mediocre, it means it's being in the medium, so it's the halfway point, let's say, from perfection to abject incompetence. The animation is a 5 out of 10, let's say. It's serviceable, and that's basically the few action parts that they have in the anime are really cut up, really stiff, and frame recycle and whatever. It's serviceable at the very best, because again, it is not the focus for this anime. This anime is mainly for the ecchi, and that's basically it. The story is that thin. It becomes a bit more emotional towards the end, because they begin to dump a lot of information, a whole lot of lore dumps. I don't actually think it's that much, but there's a whole streak, or I think a whole volume actually, just to the backstory of Kodama Himegami, and what the hell is happening in the story at that point, because the whole thing becomes so convoluted. I would say, actually, proportionally, relatively, the action scenes are better in the manga than the anime, if that makes sense. And I mean, that's basically it. Just to be clear again, I don't actually recommend anyone to watch this anime if they don't want to. I don't actually think it will add much for a repertorium. If you want to watch it. But again, the story is thin, and it just works if you want to see lewdness, which I do not condone. But at the same time, I don't know, man. If you like it, you like it, and maybe I just gave you a good indication. I don't know. The thing is, right? So this is a review just for future reference, for what I want to still talk about, and a whole lot of other anime and manga that eventually I will review, because as it turns out, there's a lot of ecchi stuff in the market. But yeah, that's basically it. So if you like what I do, if you like the show, if you like my work, thank you for listening. If you can, please like, share, subscribe, follow, depending on the platform you're in. And I hope you stick around. Until next time, bye.